Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2, season 2 of the Daily Pill, a webcast sponsored by our parent company, Angel Home Care Services, an agency educating and providing caregiving services to the Miami-Dade and Monroe communities right here in South Florida. Today, um, the topic is an interesting one, right? I actually titled it, What Happens If You Are a Caregiver and No Power of Attorney Exists? And I picked that specific question because that's a question that I get asked sometimes. And today, our guest today to answer that question and talk about all that stuff is Peter Leighton, all right? Director of Client Relationships at Chepenik Trushin, a boutique law firm that focuses primarily on estate planning. Does stuff like wills, trust, charitable giving, taxation, probate, guardianship, all that good stuff. And if you're a family caregiver, you've been wondering about all this stuff and when do you learn about it, what do you need to do, then this is your chance to learn more. All right, so let me introduce Peter here really quick, and I'm gonna have to read his bio because there's no way anybody can memorize this. All right, so
Thank you.
yeah. So Peter works directly with Bart, Chepenik to guide primarily the planning, Medicaid planning, elder law, and administration practices for a total of about 5 attorneys, including Mr. Brad Trushin, who leads the firm's litigation practice with 5 attorneys. Peter earned a Master's of Science, Higher Education Administration from Florida State University, and a BA in Psychology, counseling from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. Peter was a university administrator and faculty member for 13 years, working with college students, housing, leadership development, community relationships, student conduct, academic dishonesty, and conflict mediation. He also served Arizona State University, Rochester Institute of Technology, RIT, and Florida and FIU. While RIT, Peter worked, which is something I love about him, he worked with 3,000 deaf students that got to know sign language and deaf culture. Following that stint as a professor, he's an educator at heart. Peter worked in senior elder care, which is why we're homies and we gel so well, all right?
Yeah.
And he worked in assisted living, private duty, in-home based skilled nursing services for 19 years right here in South Florida. He focused back then on helping adults, their development, communities and life care planning issues for adults between the ages of 17 and 109.
Yeah, that was my oldest.
Yeah. And he grew up in Philly, all right, in the
I'm
town
a
called
Philly guy.
yeah, and you lived here in Miami and Broward for the last 24 years, and then you now reside in Hollywood with your wife, which is a retired artist, Martha Leighton, who proudly, and I have to say proudly, all right, hails from Jalisco, Mexico.
Jalisco,
All right.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have remembered all that, so I had to read it, Peter. So, dude, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Right. All right, no problem. So, the title of today's episode is "What Happens If You're a Caregiver and No Power of Attorney Exists?" That's a question that I get sometimes. That's something that you actually taught me how to, the best way to answer that question in a way that you can help somebody. But that's just one of the many things that entails the entire estate planning. If you only had a few minutes like we have today, 15 minutes, right, and someone just came up to you and said, Peter, I know this is something I need to look into. I'm currently whether they're in crisis or not. Right? Okay, what would be the quickest way that you could educate somebody and then send them in the right direction in terms of what practical advice and knowledge that they can just scoop up in a few minutes and then they can go off and start doing what they need to do?
Right. I think it's a great question, Claudio, and it comes up a lot of times in crisis, but there's ways to be proactive about it because you certainly don't want to be reactive. If you're in crisis mode, you might have to call to action on a law firm like ours to take care of business in the moment. But, the power of attorney is something that is very important to make sure that there is a voice. There's a voice for the other person, the loved one, It could be the mother, the father, the parents, the aunts, the uncles. And what it is a legal document that outlines the designated person or persons in some cases. Sometimes there's a power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney. There could also even be a healthcare surrogate document. But these documents allow the banks, the trusted financial advisors, the medical professionals to completely understand what is to be done if there should be a need for medical care, for immediate financial business dealings. And this comes in the fact that sometimes people become incapacitated because of their medical condition, their cognition, their cognitive ability, cognitive decision making. Sometimes they also are in need because literally they've gotten sick and now decisions have to be made for them. It is a way to do what we call a gift of love, really, is what estate planning is. And the power of attorney and the healthcare power of attorney are encompassing within a basic estate plan. So what's in a basic estate plan? You have 7 basic documents. You have a living will, you have a power of attorney document, a healthcare power of attorney document, a healthcare surrogate document. There also could be your beneficiaries are listed out, your assets are defined. You have what's called a DNR, or a do not resuscitate statement. Some people choose that. And then you have what's called your pre-need guardianship language. And finally, you also can designate then someone to be an executor or a personal representative. The idea is you proactively build these documents so that your loved ones and the people you trust around you in your life, in your familia or your family, are able to know what your wishes are and your desires are. One thing you do not want is you do not want to become incapacitated or potentially die in what we call intestate. Intestate means no will. So those are very important points that are related to having no power of attorney in place. And that's your basic plan.
Okay, because as I understand, going back to the one thing that you don't want to do is let the intestacy laws for this particular state take over, because at that point it's just you have no choice. It's just now it's a roller coaster. You're in it. You don't have a say. Correct? What's the worst case scenario there?
Okay, it is correct, but I want to make one thing clear. I try to tell everybody, get your basic estate plan done, because yes, you do not avoid any probate issues, probate administration issues, which is post-death administration of your end of life. So if you have a basic plan, you may not avoid probate. You have to have a trust to avoid probate. But what is a trust? A trust is a more sophisticated document there where you build the trust document with a law firm like ours, and then you fill the trust, and then you have to fund the trust, and then you have to make sure title is what I call king and queen, or queen and king. It simply means that every asset inside the trust has to be titled exactly as the assets appearing on outside of the trust. The only way to avoid probate is to form a trust and to get that done. But one other point I'll bring up about both estate plans and trusts, very important in Florida, and that is witnessing. Witnessing is everything in the state of Florida when it comes to these legal documents. What a lot of people don't understand, Claudio, is this, especially when they're in a crisis mode, is if you did a plan 15 years ago, and let's say you decided you wanted to do it, at a more low value, let's say.
Right.
Let's say you tried to do it something like LegalZoom, or you tried to do it with, the lowest end you could, or you sometimes thought you were going to write it out on a napkin at the dinner table, okay? The challenge you have is in Florida, we have some of the toughest witnessing laws for signing of estate planning documents that exist in the country. And so the sure way to get an estate plan or a trust witness is to do it by a Florida bar lawyer who's got their Florida bar license, It's similar to a Bart Chepenik or a Brad Trushin at Chepenik Trushin Law.
And that's what makes it legit.
That is correct. And I'm going to say this. Let's say that you have your basic estate plan, and let's say that's all you have. Well, guess what? It's better than intestate, because even if you end up in a probate situation, you still have a document to hand to the judge, because probate court is a bench court. It's different from a trial. It's different from a jury court. It's the judge and two sides, and you're being represented by a lawyer on one side. The key part of that is you're showing them some type of your blueprint and architecture post-death or post-incapacity. But again, the best way to do it is to get a trust done.
So there's a question here from Brenda. Hey, Brenda, what's up? So
Hey,
can
Brenda.
witnesses can witnesses be friends or employees, or is that more of a technical term when you be my witness, and meaning it has to be the firm?
Okay. By Florida law, when you're developing an estate plan or a trust and you're witnessing it, and it's being done by a Florida bar lawyer, okay?
Got it.
Yes, it must be who the law firm is choosing to do that. We usually use our paralegals, and during COVID, we have very safe protocols on how we do it. Everyone's wearing masks, everyone is sanitizing, everyone's using a separate pen. We sign each document, the pen gets thrown away. Literally, we have boxes of pens out, and we have sanitizer, and we will even come down and escort you from the parking lot up to our conference room. We are doing consultations, though, in COVID through Zoom, so we're accessible.
All right, that's awesome. So Peter, right now, average Joe or Jane, right?
Yep.
And I know this has to do specifically with their situation, but steps 2, 1, 2, 3, right? In terms of practicality, what do they need? What do they just heard you? They don't know anything.
Right.
What's step number 1?
Step number 1 is ask yourself and your family, do we have an estate plan? Do we have those 7 basic documents? A lot of people don't. You need to make sure you're protecting your wealth and your health and planning for that gift of love to help your family as you're progressing through your life. The other part is step 2 is going to be this. Call on a Florida bar lawyer to get advice. We tell people all the time, do a consultation. Get an hour of consult to understand the landscape of what your desires are and what you need. Okay? You're working very hard to build this wealth. You're building businesses. You're building LLCs. You got to protect what you've earned. And step 3 is this. Once you go ahead and commit to this, get it done, and you can put it on the shelf. You then only have to get it reviewed about every 3 to 5 years because the laws change. And it's very important for you to understand that you do not want to get caught to be intestate or intestacy when either you have a medical issue, you have an accident, or you have a loved one that's aging and all of a sudden they go into palliative stage, hospice, and or pass away.
Yeah, because definitely in addition to protecting your wealth, then it's the worst time for a family to have to make decisions. So it's such a drain emotionally, right, and psychologically when you have to take care of all these things at the worst possible time, man.
Right.
Right. So step number 1, research, find out what's going on, what do we have, what we don't have, right?
Yep.
Number 2, pick a bar, pick a firm, right? A group of attorneys that specialize in it and they have the track record like you guys do. Okay. Yep. And then what was step number 3?
Step number 3 is once you get it done, commit to getting it done.
Got it.
Start the consultation, implement, and then you put it on the shelf and you get it reviewed, because that's the first step. The attorneys will always guide you and your family towards, do we need to do a trust? And what are your desires? This is what we can do for you. Do we need to do Medicaid planning and elder law for your loved one? This is what we can do for you. And that's the way that process works.
That's awesome. I think that at what point do you change a revocable trust to an irrevocable trust? Brenda asks.
Okay, I'm going to be honest in saying this. I am not an attorney, okay? I work for wonderful attorneys who've been doing it for a combined 53 years. That is a direct question for Bart Chepenik. What I am going to tell you, though, is this is the situation where you do your education and you go to a bar, you go to a website like ours and you look at what the definitions are, okay? I will tell you, I am not able to answer that question, but Bart Chepenik can answer that question for you.
All right, and can you really spell out your website right now? Because I know we put it on the captions, but what is?
Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually give you Bart Chepenik's cell phone number. It's 305-613-3548. He literally works from his cell phone. My cell phone number is 954-290-3488. And the website is www.ctllp.com. And it is a very user-friendly website answering many of the frequently asked questions that came up tonight.
Yeah, I've been there. I've checked it out. It's just, and he's actually, I liked it because he's written in English. not a lot of attorney jargon, because
we have Spanish-speaking and bilingual staff.
That's awesome. Peter, I think, I don't know how you did it, but you got it done. I think we might be like maybe a minute over, or something like that. But thank you so much. We're going to do this again, but this was a great start. And I think that we gave some really good value in terms of what people need to know and what they need to do.
We just want to make one point. Plan while you can. Plan while you can.
Good advice, my friend.
Yep.
Thank you for stopping by.
We loved it, man. Claudio, you're doing great work out there. I call it God's work. I did it for 19 years. And let's keep up the advocacy and the education.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Thank you. Well.
All right.